What's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. And today we're going to talk about a couple of different charts and, our normal stuff. But at the same time, I kind of feel like having a rant during this video. So we're going to kind of just like talk more broadly about the economic situation that we're all in right now. And that does relate to cryptocurrencies, and I'll try to tie it all together. But first we can talk real quickly about the XRP price chart, right? I know a lot of people come in here to see just that, so we'll take a peek at it. We are still in this range, and we have been in here for 2 weeks. So obviously, there's just not a whole lot to talk about with XRP. There's nothing really more to say about it. We just have to wait to see which direction it's going to break to. Yesterday, it did break above the 50-day moving average, and it does appear at this time we have back tested it. However, as for a breakout, not the strongest of breakouts, so we'll see what happens and how much longer we need to continue consolidating and ranging before we can get a clear direction going on here. So for the short-term price action, we just don't have much going on. Nothing changes with my bullish stance in regards to it blasting off and going to the targets. Just the time frame on that is unknown right now. As for our last market cycle, the one that we've been looking at right here, well, enough time has elapsed for if we were going to have some type of repeating time frame, well, we're there. So whether or not anything is going to play out from that, we will see. As we've talked about, time doesn't always line up, but man, hopefully it does. So we're just kind of patiently waiting on that to see if there's any type of correlation between time of long-term corrections and starting new cycles. But as of right now, we are still just in a range, and we're going to have to patiently wait to see how that plays out. So I'm going to kind of leave it right here on this screen that we have right here. And this is the total altcoin market cap, which we have compared in my live stream and in a video earlier this week to talk about Wyckoff accumulation, and that this is likely the bottom area, whether or not it has to come down and do a little bit more consolidating right here, but that this is the end of it. If it comes down here, I will take that as a buying opportunity. I would buy right there. That's me, not financial advice. That's just what I would do and will do if it happens. And then I would be expecting that we are going to start our new cycle. But really, the things I want to talk more about is just about the broader economic situation that's going on in the world. Now, my opinion and my view is going to be primarily about the United States. Of course, most of my audience, or not most, but a lot of my audience does not live in the United States. So the things that I say here may not be completely relevant, but maybe they are relevant to your situation too. But yesterday morning, they came out with the unemployment numbers, and I've been running through these numbers and trying to figure out what do we have going on here. And currently at this time, as of yesterday, when they reported the unemployment filing numbers, so right, these are only people who are eligible to file for unemployment. We are now at 22.03 million people in the United States. The total workforce of the United States is 164.6 million. So there's 164.6 million people capable of working in the United States. So that includes people who are employed and people who are unemployed. Well, before this whole situation arose, we were at 3.5% unemployment. So when you take into account, and that's included in the 164 million people. So when you account for the fact that 20.3 million people have filed for unemployment, that means that 13.8% of the population of the workforce is now unemployed. Of course, that number is skewed because you have to think about the fact that a lot of people who are the first round of layoffs are usually going to be the new employees, the people who haven't been around for long. They're in training. They've only been doing their job for 5 months or so, and you want to get rid of them first because you want to keep your more valuable long-term employees. Well, those people who have only been with a company for 3, 4, 5 months, they are not eligible for unemployment benefits, and they don't get included in that 22.03 million. The 22.03 million are only going to be people who have been with a company long enough and are eligible to get the unemployment. So we have no idea what the true unemployment numbers are. We only know how many people have filed for unemployment benefits because they were eligible for unemployment benefits. So, right, I think about that number, right? So 13.8%, that's about 1 out of every 6 people. I think it's reasonable to say 1 out of every 6 people because of the people who are not eligible for unemployment and not included in that. So 1 out of 6 people in the workforce are currently unemployed. Now, if you want to step outside your house in here in a second and just look down your street and start like visualizing what that means and just like count the houses and start saying, okay, there's an unemployed person there, there's an unemployed person there, right? Let's say there's 2 people who are employed in every house. And I know that's not always the case. Sometimes there's just a head of household income earner, kind of like in my situation, right? I'm the only one who's an income earner in my family. But for the most part, around the houses that I live at, most people are dual income earners. That would mean in 1 out of every 3 houses, 1 out of every 4 or 5 houses, something like that, somebody's unemployed. Can you imagine if we did open the economy tomorrow? Would all those people magically be employed again? No way. Absolutely not. Sometimes I do bring up politics in this because we have to. We have to talk about policy and what's really happening here. But I always have to reiterate that I don't swing either way. I think the whole thing's a sham. I think the system is designed to make us argue with each other rather than the government, right? You make it so that the citizens have their loyalty team, right? You have your team and you root for your team. And the way you can get your team to win is to vote, and then you fight amongst each other. So I find it ridiculous. I find that both sides, and by staring at so many charts, I've seen so many situations where both parties are working together to do things, no matter who's the one in charge at the time. So I don't buy any of it. So I'm going to start talking about the president right now. And I'm sorry if you don't like it. That's just going to be life. But I do talk about Democrats too. But I noticed something yesterday. So yesterday afternoon, the president came out and talked about reopening the economy, right? So now he's going to start his whole branding message of reopening the economy. And yet at the exact same time, he says, I'm handing it over to the governors to decide when that's the right thing to do. So we created this branding and this marketing image of being I'm a champion for opening the economy. I'm going to be rooting and cheering for opening the economy, and that's going to be the branding that Trump is going to represent, right? So he's going to be coming on TV every day, likely, and doing his campaign rallies that he does every day and talking about opening up the economy, yet he won't make the decision. He's passed that over to the governors, right? So the governors can be the one to blame if things go really bad or if they don't open it fast. If he can be the one sitting there saying, hey, let's open this stuff up, let's do it. I don't know the right decision on whether or not it's good to open up or not. I can tell you that it does need to open up, right? We need to have the economy flowing. Whether or not there's any type of serious health risk or side effects that are going to occur from that, I don't know on that either. But one thing I do know is no matter what, even if we do open up the economy, all these 22 million people who have lost their jobs, and not only that, when we get the economic numbers next week for the unemployment, we'll have another 3 or 4 million tacked on top of that. It doesn't change anything. Those people will still be unemployed. 1 out of every 3 or 4 houses on your street, there's going to be somebody unemployed there. Just because the economy opens doesn't mean they get their jobs back. We're going to have consumer perception problems. We're going to have people who are going to be very wary about how they spend their money. People are not just going to, imagine this right now, right? You go into a grocery store, you're wearing gloves, you're wearing face masks. You see all these intricate setups of people who have created these homemade shields and suits and stuff when they go to the grocery store. You're going to wear a mask to go grocery shopping, but you're not going to wear a mask to go eat at a restaurant, right? Consumer perception is going to be destroyed. Not only that, you're going to go eat food. So if you're going to wear a mask and you're going to wear gloves to a grocery store, then you're going to let somebody go handle food for you behind, back in the kitchen. You have no idea how sanitized they are or anything like that. No, it doesn't matter. People are not going to go out to eat no matter what. Even if you open up the economy, the restaurants, the stores, they're going to be empty. People are buying essentials right now because they're living in fear. It doesn't matter if you open up the economy because the economic damage is done. Does the economy need to open? Yeah, definitely. I totally think it needs to open. Do I think that's the right thing from a health perspective? I don't know. I'm not informed enough to know if that's really the right thing to do for the safety of people. I have no clue. But from an economic standpoint, it certainly needs to open, and we need to at least start making progress to getting things back together. I don't know whether or not that's good for our safety or not. So I can't really comment on that. But what I can say is that, man, there's a big disconnect from the perception of people thinking that things are going to get better. I like to think of this as the economy that you and I live in, not the Wall Street one, not the one we look at on these charts, but the economy that you and I live in just suffered a gunshot wound to the abdomen. It's got holes in its stomach, its liver, kidneys. There's holes, and it's bleeding profusely, and there's no doctors around, and all the hospitals are closed. It doesn't matter if you start trying to put band-aids on it or whatever. There's a big problem. I look back to the great financial crisis, and I remembered this because I actually worked in a home for a home building company. I was a marketing coordinator for a home builder. 2007 was an awesome year. And then I bought my first house in November of 2007. I was like 22, 23 years old. I was like, dude, I'm like so on track with life. This is amazing. February of 2008, 3 months later, housing market starts crashing. I get laid off. And then I watched everything really fall apart. And you see things happen in slow motion in the beginning. Just because, you see all the stocks fall, you see the economy start to fall apart, and unemployment really starts to pick up. But things don't really start getting real bad until months to a year later. A lot of people, I remember how angry people were in 2009, 10, 11, and 12 because the economy was so bad at that time. However, if you look at the stock charts, the market bounced in 2009 and was in an uptrend ever since. But the aftermath, the fallout of the damage that was done took time to play out. And that's where we're at right now. We're only 4 weeks into all of this. And we haven't seen what the true damage is going to be like. And trust me, it hasn't even started yet. And it's coming. There's no doubt about it. There's economic huge damage that has been inflicted, and you're going to see it. And if you're like anywhere between the age of like 18 to 30 years old, you haven't really seen it before. And you're going to see houses on your street where the blinds are missing. They in the middle of the night, one of your neighbors had a moving truck come, loaded the moving truck in the middle of the night, stole all the blinds from the house, and then just walked away from it. I remember that happening multiple times on my street, which was a really nice neighborhood back in, 2010, 11, 12. And I think a lot of people are looking to the government to be the one to save them. They're looking for hope. They're looking for, stimulus checks. They're looking for loan forgiveness. And let me touch on that too. I've seen a lot of posts on Twitter of people saying that we should have our debts forgiven. Like when I think about that, I'm thinking like, what is running through a person's mind when they think, hey, you want debt forgiveness? Are you thinking like you should have your debts cleared out and that you should get to keep all of the assets that you financed, right? You did a 30-year mortgage, you're on your second year of your mortgage. You should have your mortgage cleared out for you and you get to keep this big asset completely for free, or the car that you're financing that you've owned for 1 year, that loan should be forgiven and you should just get to keep the 50, 70, $100,000 car that you've financed for a year. Or you think that, what about all the responsible people, right, who didn't rack up a bunch of debt and lived within their means? Well, those people should just, they don't get any type of reward for that, but the people who have were in tons of debt with a bunch of assets get to keep all the assets and the loans are forgiven. And I think, okay, well, so should you also get to have really good credit after something like that happens? Like you're a responsible borrower and should be considered a responsible borrower moving forward after that type of loan forgiveness as well. I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of people who are living in a misguided reality, and it's hard for me to know the age of people who are typing that on Twitter, right? But I see popularity of it and likes, people liking that kind of stuff, and I don't know how old people are who are liking that, and that might be youth. I don't think people in their 30s and 40s and 50s think there's any reasonable chance that your debt's going to be forgiven and you keep the assets. You would likely, if something like that happened, it would be some type of structured bankruptcy that you would do, which would be a destruction of your credit, and you would lose all the assets. But anywho, I think one of the reasons why I wanted to make a video like this as well is, Twitter has gotten just so incredibly overrun by misguided views on what I think the government should be doing, right? I think there's so many people who have been sucked into the brainwashing of both sides. Both sides. They're sucked into the brainwashing. And unfortunately, when you have been sucked in so hard to one side, when you've chosen your sports team and have your unlimited loyalty to one side, I think you're brainwashed. When you can't look at it from the outside and say, hey, this guy's doing something bad, or wait a minute, that was crazy, for both sides. And you are just completely loyal, like a sports team, to one side. And I think people forget that these are our employees, these people who are our politicians and our leaders and policymakers, they're our employees, and we treat them like gods. We treat them like idols, like celebrities, but they're supposed to be our employees. Yet they're allowed to, get most of their income. I see people say, hey, if they can't help us, then their salaries should be terminated until whenever. But you got to realize that the system is so corrupt that like their salary represents like 1% of how much money they make. Like 90% of the money that politicians make is from lobbyists, from special interest groups giving them money. So really, I think the point of my video on this is if you have found yourself that you're looking at government as to be the ones who are going to save this, I think you need to reassess what's really going on here. 22 million people unemployed in 4 weeks. There is no quick recovery for that. Even if we came out and we did like some type of test on everybody and it turns out that everybody has already gotten this, right? And we all have the antibodies for it, and we're all good. And actually, it wasn't really a big deal in the first place, which I think that's very possible that that will happen because that makes the most logical sense for a quick economic opening. That narrative sounds pretty good to me. That still would not solve the fact that so many people lost their job in the last 4 weeks. No matter what. What is it, like 70% of America lives paycheck to paycheck? I guess they started issuing out $1,200 stimulus checks a couple of days ago. I didn't get one. I went and checked the IRS website too to see about it, and they were like, they didn't give me any info. I can't even input payment stuff. So I don't know. I guess I'm not getting one. But that's just a little tiny band aid for the gunshot wound to the abdomen that the economy has taken. I think you can clearly see how many trillions of dollars are being included in these bailouts, and such a tiny fraction of it is going to businesses and going to citizens. We're going to see the final pump and dump of the stock market. We're going to see that people are going to lose trust. And what happens when you lose trust? When you lose trust in the monetary system in general. Do you know how angry people will be living in this economy of just destruction and then watching Wall Street pumping? What will people do? They'll say the system is rigged and they don't want to play in it anymore. They take their dollars, they go buy gold, they go buy silver, and they buy cryptocurrencies. I said it during my live stream. Or in one of my videos, that I don't think that the next bull run is going to be a FOMO bull run like we saw in 2017, a greed FOMO bull run. I think this next one is going to be a fear bull run where people are running away from their current monetary system. Yes, with XRP, we are looking for the liquidity and all that stuff coming in from cross-border payments, but I think there's going to be more to it. You're looking at this huge narrative playing out right here. It feels like there's going to be something else going on here besides just that. It makes me more bullish on the whole space when I look at what's going on with how much money is being printed, how people are not being helped, how corporations are getting bailed out. I think there's going to be a mass population of people who say, I refuse to play in this game any longer. So, okay, that's going to be it for this one. I just wanted to come on here and rant today. Yeah, sorry to all the people that got real mad, but that's what I do. I think I have my own opinion on everything. I have lots of different opinions on stuff, and whether or not I don't think most people agree with what I have to say, but there are people who definitely do agree with some of the stuff I say. And if I offended you, well, sorry about that. But, hopefully I opened up your eyes to maybe a different perspective a little bit. I have my own opinions on all the other things that are going on, where all of this originated from, why it originated. I'm not going to dive into that on here today. Maybe one day, but not today. But my opinion is different from everybody else's opinion on why this started and where it started and who started it. It's not always the most obvious conclusion, right? Whatever's the most obvious and whatever the masses of people can jump to the conclusion of it being is likely not what it is. That's going to be it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank you so much for watching and listening to my channel today. Please like this video and give it a thumbs up. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick me up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.